Hello everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to use value and mark making techniques to color in our picture. We are used to just coloring things in a certain way where we just kind of treat it like a coloring book and you color each object separately and it's all one flat color. So through our value and mark making study, we now know that there's ways that we can kind of get some variety and some interest in these areas. So one way would be through the pressure of your tool. So crayons and colored pencils are things that if you press harder, you can get a darker value. And so maybe I'll want to press harder on this hill. Oops, I just heard my crayon snap a little bit. I can press harder. Another thing is if I wanted to, or if I was able to, I could find a color that's close, like this blue-green is something that I could use and get some more dark shades into this little grassy hill. And that's one way I can add in some variety, make it just look a little more interesting. You could do this for skies too, like if I wanted my sky to go from dark blue to light blue, or if I'm doing a sunset, maybe I'm blending a few different colors. And just by adding in a little bit more of those tints and tones and shades, we're getting more interest. Let's talk about mark making, because mark making is another way that we could do this. If I wanted to add some texture into a grassy hill, remember we had talked about our cross-hatching. I could do cross-hatching farther apart for that lighter value. And then when I want it darker, then I can cross-hatch it like a little closer together. It also gives me a nice texture. And you can layer different techniques. Like if I wanted to maybe color the base in with crayons, and then I could go over it and add that texture. Maybe even just doing some hatching where it's just straight up and down lines. That could give me some very interest and variety. We also could do, I have a body of water down here, so we'll kind of take our focus down to there. I'm grabbing out some different blues. I'm gonna grab out a white. Now, bodies of water tend to be darker towards the center because the water is deeper there. And so maybe in the center, I would use a darker blue. And you wanna think about the way that your tool is going. Right now I'm coloring horizontally, so I want to color horizontal with all of my tools in this area to create the same type of illusion. If I want to color lighter towards the edge, I can do a less pressure and it can get heavier as it goes towards the center. Okay, if I wanted to add even some other layers in, layer some different colors in, mix crayons and mix colored pencils. Can do oil pastels, which would blend and mix together really nicely. And after you get in kind of that base, you could go back in and do, some mark making techniques to get some lines in there. I'm just gonna try some white. Doesn't quite show up like how I wanted it, but you could use white as a blending tool as well. Another thing I wanted to talk about was markers. I know markers are fun and we love markers. The problem with markers are when we color them, you can't change from light to dark with a marker. It just kind of is one solid thing. So if you want to use a marker, do think about that stippling technique that I showed you, where we could do dots that are far away, and then the dots can get closer and closer and closer together when we want to darken the value. And you could layer different greens, like this one's more yellow green, and I could go back in with a darker green. So keep in mind how we can use what we know about value and mark making to create some very interesting areas.